Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being with us this morning. Bonjour tout le monde. Merci d'être avec nous ce matin. I'm coming to you from the traditional territories of the Mississauga, the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Huron-Wendat. We are going to just be speaking today about really what I would call a contrast in leadership. That was particularly striking over the last couple of weeks and has become even more so with the recent announcement regarding President Biden and President-elect Biden and his upcoming climate plans. So in particular, I wanted to point out today that in the same week that President-elect Biden was announcing that he intends, as one of his first executive orders on his first day in office, to cancel the Keystone XL pipeline. This was the same week that the Prime Minister and his government announced 3 new drilling projects off the coast of Newfoundland and Labrador. This comes hot on the heels of the recent announcements with respect to the government's climate plan. And I could not help but notice, and it's something that the Green Party pointed out, that the very same week that our government was committing that it was going to just try to achieve a target of 30% greenhouse gas emissions reductions by 2030, that same week, 27 countries in Europe were announcing a commitment to cut their greenhouse gas emissions by at least 55% by 2030. And so time and time again in recent weeks, we have seen a failure of leadership. I think that the jury is in on that. We can say now with a great deal of certainty that Canada is not committing to lead on the climate. Canada is not committing to be ambitious on the climate in the way that people in Canada have asked our government to be, and that we are being left behind in the global competition for a green recovery and a green economy. I'll also point out that as we are announcing 3 new gas exploration projects and pushing to maintain the Keystone pipeline with our American counterparts, that Denmark has announced also recently that they are ending all exploration in the North Sea. And so for those who say that it is impossible to have a modern economy, it is impossible to create jobs in a country that is highly dependent upon oil and gas exploration and extraction, I say look to Denmark, and you will be looking to the future and to the countries that understand that that is how we are going to build the economy and the jobs of the future, by moving away from industries that are in decline, diversifying economies, and investing in technologies and jobs that have a true future. And so you cannot say that you're serious on leading on the climate and continue to support fracking, continue to build pipelines, continue to approve drilling projects, refuse to set increased greenhouse gas emissions reduction targets, refuse to set targets within the next few years as opposed to decades into the future. That's simply not serious. The jobs of the future are green, and our economy and our recovery from this pandemic must be green. The green economy has jobs that pay more. They have jobs that use existing skills. The jobs are safer. The jobs do not displace communities. Half of the jobs in green fields do not require a post-secondary degree. And for every $1 million that you invest in the green economy, you get 8 jobs out of it, as opposed to the 3 that you get out of investments in the fossil fuel sector. So the whole world understands this. And this is why the EU, the UK, China, and the United States now are planning for a green recovery. So we have the chance of a lifetime. And as we look to the inauguration of President-elect Biden as the next president of the United States, we have a real chance because this is a president who has said, president-elect, who has made it very clear that the climate is going to be on the top of his agenda. And so we should be working with the United States to, rather than pushing them to reverse the commitment to end the Keystone pipeline, we should be using our diplomacy to work with them to create a North American carbon border. This is something that I proposed all the way back when I was a leadership candidate. It's something the Green Party has proposed since then. It is something that is one of the most impactful things we can do, not only to protect our businesses here, but also to promote greenhouse gas emissions reductions in other countries. So that should be top of our agenda, to sit down and talk about how we can create a North American carbon border. We also should create our own climate minister to mirror the climate czar that has been appointed by President-elect Biden, so that we have a counterpart that can speak with John Kerry on an ongoing basis on how we can work on the climate together. And finally, I would say to the people of Newfoundland, who are really our top concern in talking about the future and moving away from oil and gas exploration, please do not be fooled. Please do not allow this government or the corporations that have a vested interest in making sure that every dollar is extracted out of the fossil fuel sector with no regard to your future after that sector has ended. Please do not allow them to fool you into thinking that these are the only jobs that are possible for you. And I would ask you to remember what happened with the collapse of the cod fisheries, and how people in Newfoundland were told that that was a safe and secure sector until it didn't exist anymore, and the devastation that it wrought on communities. And I also say this as the sister of someone who worked as a roughneck in the oil patch up until very recently. I'm thinking about you and your future, and our party is as well. And this is exactly why we want to see a green recovery. We want to see economic diversification, and we want it focused on you first and foremost. Alors en français, je note que dans la même semaine que le président élu des États-Unis, président Biden, a annoncé l'annulation du pipeline Keystone XL, notre gouvernement a annoncé 3 nouveaux projets de forage exploratoire sur la côte de Terre-Neuve et Labrador. La même semaine que 27 pays en Europe ont annoncé leur promesse de réduire leurs émissions de gaz à effet de serre par plus de 55% d'ici à 2030, notre Premier ministre a annoncé qu'il allait couper il allait essayer de couper nos émissions de gaz à effet de serre par 30%. Dans un moment où le Nouvelle-Zélande, la France, Danemark sont en train de terminer leur projet d'exploration et de projet de forage exploratoire, nous sommes en train de continuer. Alors, c'est le moment d'accepter que notre gouvernement n'est pas sérieux, de démontrer un rôle de leadership dans la lutte contre la crise climatique. On ne peut pas soutenir la fracturation hydraulique. Nous ne pouvons pas continuer de soutenir des pipelines ni des projets de forage exploratoire, ni refuser d'augmenter notre cible pour réduction de gaz à effet de serre, ni refuser de créer une cible pour l'année 2025 et pas l'année 2030 ou 2050, et dire qu'on est sérieuse. Et c'est vraiment dommage parce que nous avons vraiment une chance, une opportunité incroyable de transformer vers une économie verte, d'avoir une relance verte. Et c'est ça où il y a les emplois. C'est ça où nous avons l'opportunité économique. Les emplois dans les secteurs verts, ils ne paient plus. Ils utilisent les compétences de nos travailleurs et travailleuses. Ils réussissent à ne pas déplacer les communautés. Et et c'est un secteur qui crée 8 emplois pour chaque million de dollars investis, en contraste avec le secteur fossile qui crée que 3. Alors, tout le monde comprend ça, l'Union européenne, le Royaume-Uni, la Chine, les États-Unis. Et c'est pour ça exactement qu'ils sont en train de planifier pour une relance verte. Alors, si nous passons à côté de cette opportunité, nous passons à côté de l'opportunité d'être compétitive et de créer l'économie du futur. Nous avons une nouveau président élu aux États-Unis qui veut absolument travailler sur le climat, la crise climatique. Il veut reprendre un rôle de leadership sur le plan international. Et mon suggestion et la suggestion du Parti vert, c'est de ne pas gaspiller cette opportunité sur leur convaincre de continuer avec le projet Keystone XL, mais par contre d'utiliser l'opportunité de diplomatie, de parler, de créer une frontière de carbone. Une frontière de carbone, c'est une des opportunités avec le plus d'impact pour protéger nos entreprises et au même moment d'encourager les pays qui veulent créer des partenariats avec nous, qui veulent voir leurs produits entrer dans nos pays, de vraiment créer des meilleurs plans pour protéger le climat et l'environnement. Nous devrons aussi créer notre propre ministre sur le climat, qui serait l'homologue du Mr. Kerry, qui est le Climate Czar pour les États-Unis, et comme ça d'avoir une conversation continueuse. Et finalement, je dis au peuple, à toutes les personnes qui habitent aux côtes est de notre pays, je leur de Terre-Neuve et de Labrador, je dis de vous méfier et faire gaffe des gouvernements et des coopérations qui insistent qu'il y a un grand futur pour le secteur fossile dans votre province. Parce que nous avons l'exemple de l'effondrement de nos pêcheries sur la côte. Et on sait qu'il y avait beaucoup de promesses que ça serait quelque chose de temporaire et ça est devenu permanent. Et le résultat, c'était le déplacement des résidents. Et le complète effondrement d'un style de vie. Alors, il faut insister sur la diversification économique. Il faut insister qu'on utilise ce moment pour une relance verte dans votre province. Et je le dis comme la sœur d'un frère qui travaillait dans le secteur pétrolier en Alberta il y a que quelques mois. Nous pensons à vous absolument sont notre priorité. Et si on parle d'une transformation, si on parle d'une économie verte, c'est avec vous en tête. Merci.
So,
with that, I'll take questions.
Yes. So we'll go to questions. David Thurton from CBC has a question. So one question, one follow-up. Alors, on va aux questions. Ça va être une question, puis une question à suivre. On commence avec David Thurton. Allez-y, go
Hey,
ahead.
good morning, Madam Paul. Good to see you. Happy New Year.
Yes, you too.
We haven't heard a whole lot from the federal government, any ministers about their reaction to the incoming administration, signaling that they're going to cancel this pipeline on day one. So if the federal government comes out today and says that they're going to try everything that they can in the next 48 hours to maybe delay that executive order or to get Biden to rethink that order, because things could change, right? What does it say if the government, continues to pursue that approach, do you think?
It says that this government is not serious about tackling the climate emergency. It says that we have for once and for all abandoned any semblance, any pretense that Canada is going to lead on the climate. You simply cannot continue to build pipelines to continue to frack oil, to continue to refuse to set any kind of target that even matches our international peers, and at the same time say that you are a climate warrior. We are simply not doing what is necessary in order to do just our fair share, never mind leadership, just our fair share in order to make sure that we do not continue to warm our planet. And so I'm hoping that with this latest indication, between the 3 new drilling projects and between our insistence that we are going to lobby for the continuation of Keystone, that people in Canada will see that this is a government that simply is not serious about the climate, and they are not serious about taking any leadership on the climate, nationally or internationally.
But doesn't it also say something to Albertans and the prairie provinces that rely on oil and gas? I mean, Alberta has sunk a lot of money into this pipeline. It's mostly built on the Canadian side. So doesn't it say that in a country that is where we're concerned about Western alienation, where we're concerned about what is the future, what are the jobs in the short term and yes, the long term for Albertans, doesn't it say that we got your backs? And doesn't the government need to do everything that can to save this pipeline, and yes, pursue climate policies? Isn't that important as well?
I will say directly to people in Alberta and Saskatchewan and Newfoundland and Labrador, all of the places that are particularly dependent upon oil and gas exploration, please do not allow yourselves to be fooled. These commitments to these projects are not being done with you in mind. They're being done in order to extract profits for the oil and gas corporations that are in those territories for as long as possible. They're being done to satisfy the short-term political interests of the political parties who continue to support those projects, but they're not done with your future in mind. And that's why, David, I use the example of the collapse of the cod fisheries very specifically, because we have examples in our nation's history of when the people were not put first, and when they were reassured that the jobs were going to stay, that the industry was going to last forever, so that the last dollar could be taken out, and then the whole thing collapsed. And so if we're talking seriously about the future of people on the prairies and in Newfoundland and Labrador, then we need to do what other countries who are dependent upon oil and gas are doing, which is planning for a green recovery with the green jobs that are going to pay more, be more stable, not displace those communities, and that have a real future. That is the plan of a government who really cares about the people and who is serious about ensuring that those communities can stay intact.
Thank you, David. Merci, David. Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions? Does anybody else have a question for Ms. Paul? No? Okay, well, David Thurston has another question for you, Ms. Paul. Would that be all right?
Absolutely. Love talking to David.
Okay, go ahead, David.
So you're also saying, Madam Paul, that you want to see a minister of climate. That's the first time I've heard you say that. So can you just expand on that? Is it the first time that you're saying that? First of all, can you just confirm that? And how would this be different? Because we have a Minister of Environment, Minister Wilkinson, and his portfolio is also climate change is in his title. Why do we need to separate it? It seems that you're saying as well that this is important for our, to signal something important to the U.S. incoming administration. So if you could just expand on that a little more, I'm interested in that.
Absolutely. The United States, we have an extraordinary opportunity with the United States at this moment. We have a president-elect who has made the climate one of his top priorities and has clearly signaled his intention to be incredibly ambitious on the climate. And so just as we acknowledge that the United States is our closest partner, our closest ally, and of course we share a border with the United States, it is important to recognize that if we are going to demonstrate the same seriousness about the climate, if we are going to make the most of the opportunity to work with the United States on the climate, within the context of North America and internationally, then we should have that counterpart. Just as President-elect Biden has appointed Senator John Kerry, to be his climate czar, we should have someone who has the sole responsibility, the only focus on the climate. The environment is quite a large and expansive portfolio, and extends to many things that extend beyond our work to tackle the climate emergency. And so given the existential nature of this crisis, given the opportunity we have with the incoming American administration, we should have our counterpart. We should say we are going to have someone at the cabinet table who is there to think about every policy, every issue, our economy, our recovery from the pandemic through a climate lens, and that person will have their counterpart in John Kerry in the United States. So we have talked for some time about having, whether it's called a climate ombudsman, or a climate auditor. I mean, there are many terms that have been used, but we have been saying for some time that we need a person specifically focused on this portfolio. Et en français, oui, avec la sélection de sénateur Kerry comme comme le climate czar aux États-Unis, et avec l'indication très claire du président élu Biden qu'il veut être très ambitieux sur le plan du climat et sur les enjeux qui touchent le climat. C'est très important que nous, en tant que le partenaire le plus proche aux États-Unis, que nous avons aussi notre propre ministre qui est ciblé uniquement sur le climat, qui considère tous nos politiques à travers le lentille du climat. Si on veut vraiment saisir l'opportunité de créer une frontière de carbone, si on veut vraiment saisir l'opportunité de travailler en partenariat avec les États-Unis sur le climat, il faut que Senator Kerry ait un homologue qui est capable de parler uniquement sur le climat avec lui.
Okay, are there any other questions from the media? Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions du média? Non? Okay. Well, that concludes this press conference. C'est fini la conférence de presse. Merci à tout le monde. Merci à Madame Paul. Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Ms. Paul.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you.